January 22nd, 2013. Episode 4. Propaganda, Firearms, and Bad Legislation. Welcome. Hopefully welcome back. If you're fed up with liberals, corruption, dirty politicians, bankers, Ponzi schemes, and Big Brother invading your privacy, you're always welcome here. I always like to start my videos off with any corrections or retractions from the previous video. We have none to report this time. Moving on, you can find us at mad-yet.blogspot.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and on iTunes. All of the links are easily found on our homepage. Now let's move along and find out what I have to say in my new article. Over the last few weeks, I've seen a few things that have angered me beyond words. Mainly Mr. Obama using kids as human shields, as Mr. Limbaugh so aptly described last week on his radio show. The use of children to push liberalism, communism, and socialistic intent is abhorrent, but not new by any means. They use children to evoke an emotional, almost subconscious response from the parents and grandparents of this nation. You should be aware when you are being manipulated, and you most certainly are in this case. Currently, the leftists are using artists against the NRA in a campaign to demonize and dehumanize gun owners, and somehow make them seem bad for American society. The use of art to create propaganda is not new either. These communists have used artists for years to advance their collectivist agenda upon the world, and they will not stop. These tactics go back as far as Stalin and Hitler. It is not new, and they will never stop doing it. But we can let them know that we are aware of this age-old trick, and we will not keep falling for it. Personally, I get disgusted when I see a child used to push products or politics. To me, there is nothing more infuriating than the utilization of these shining and innocent examples of why we need to try harder to defeat communism in all forms. Children are innocent. They have no place in politics, in my personal opinion. The use of children in politics goes to show just how desperate the left is, and what lengths they will go to achieve their goals. They can't disprove any of the facts the right has brought to the forefront, and they know they won't be able to. So they try to prop the kids up in front of their agendas in the hopes that your emotions will overtake your sensibilities. The left has tried hard, but they simply can't change the majority of America's viewpoints on guns, and the inflation of the NRA's membership by 250,000 or more members in the last few weeks proves that point without debate. There are even reports of Mr. Obama having to change his gun control speech due to the firestorm this issue has caused within America. We can only hope this report has a glimmer of underlying truth, because it further cements the view that Americans aren't as dumb as the leftists like to think we are. The communists are running scared because of the gun control backlash. They are starting to realize they opened a Pandora's box like Clinton did in '94 that destroyed the Democratic platform for years to come. They are starting to realize they pushed too hard this time, and they are sweating bullets. Pun intended. This is why they are pushing so hard right now. They know they will be out of power soon, and they want to get everything they planned accomplished as soon as possible. This weekend's Second Amendment support rallies all over America are just the beginning. The communists in office didn't think common citizens had any backbone left in them. They thought you were just pushovers, ready to be ran over by the machine called government. Stories of bare shelves in gun stores and pawn shops across America tell another story, one they weren't prepared for. There are even reports of some law enforcement agencies turning to .22 pistols to get around ammo shortages due to the public purchasing so much ammunition, and it scares the hell out of them. As of late, we see even more hypocrisy from Mr. Obama. He wants your guns, but signs into law lifetime armed security for himself. Guess who pays for that? Yeah, that's right, you do. Lately, even the ever-so-plump governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, suggested that it is somehow unfair, or more accurately, reprehensible for the NRA to use an ad that focuses on politicians' use of armed security to protect their children, but they want to restrict your ability to do the same. He states that politicians have no choice, but I submit to you that they do, and they refuse to get rid of armed security because they know their children are safer with firearms protecting them. They lack the strength of their convictions, and want nothing more than to control you. Period. More gun control bills. We continue to see more draconian legislation proposed recently. Haven't seen any? How about GPS on all firearms as suggested by Anthony Petrocelli in Bill S-224, currently in the Massachusetts legislature? Or how about H.R. 226? Yes, this particular one is offering as much as $2,000 in the form of tax credits over the course of 2 years to anyone that turns in their guns. Sounds desperate, huh? It is. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard about this bill already, but I have a few questions for you to chew on in furtherance of the truth in this matter. 1. Did you know Obama has added more to the national debt in his presidency than all of the other presidents combined? 2. Did you also know there are reports of his Jobs Council not meeting in over a year? Knowing these two simple facts, can you please explain to me how a bill like H.R. 226 can work? If the government is in such crippling debt but shows no intention of easing the problem, how on earth can it suggest a bill that would take billions that they simply can't afford to enact? Unless they have an objective, one that doesn't have anything to do with governmental finance, but rather control. Total control. Think about it. They have the money to take your guns, but not to pay their own bills. No, sir, this is not a coincidence. This is a sinister and overt plan. They want your guns, and this is the smoking gun to prove that point, as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle so aptly described in the Sherlock Holmes novels of the 1800s. It shows how truly desperate they are, and it clearly displays their true intentions, and that is to disarm you. The world is full of obvious things which nobody by chance ever observes. Sherlock Holmes. How do we stop this madness? There is only one way to stop this treasonous behavior: assertion of states' rights. If they want to keep throwing treasonous legislation at us, trying to undermine the Constitution they swore to uphold and defend, then we need to prevent them from using this tactic. Recently, Texas Representative Steve Toth has introduced the Firearms Protection Act. It puts teeth into protecting your gun rights by making sure anyone trying to enforce a federal gun ban personally faces felony charges. Bills like this are the only thing that will prevent these communists from continuing to attempt to undermine your right to protect your family, your property, and yourself in these times of national, political, and social duress. We need to focus. In this post-Sandy Hook world, we clearly see a collective effort to demonize gun owners. We see how the government is trying to tell parents how to protect their kids, and how it pushes the statist vision of how the world should be according to them. In such a draconian world, you would not have any firearms. If they get their way, you will be disarmed, docile, and compliant, just like the sheep they think you are. If not, you will cease to exist, because they can't have anyone asking questions, dissenting, or blocking their agendas. No, that would ruin the party for them, wouldn't it? What I'm about to say next is extremely important, so pay attention. The progressives talk about debate, and how we must open the door to discussing gun control to keep children safe. Let me inform you of this little fact. Until armed guards or faculty trained with firearms in schools is on the table, there is no debate. It is merely a dictatorial lecture from a fascist dictator. Mr. Obama's recent 23 executive orders prove that point very clearly. Now, let's talk about doctors. As I previously discussed, doctors are now being given orders. They are being deputized. The federal government is openly stating your doctor has the ability to rat you out. Doctor-patient confidentiality is out the window. They will be asking you about what guns you own, how many guns you own, and why you have guns in your home. They will not stop there. You can expect them to extend this gracious activity to your children, at the doctor's office, and even in public schools. Many fear that if they refuse to answer such questions, they will be deemed a dissident and marked as mentally unstable. You can expect the government to revoke licenses, certificates, and other things from people that do not go along to get along. This type of activity is extremely hypocritical, considering the national push to prevent bullying. It's somehow bad for you to bully people, but when the government does it, it's somehow okay. If you do not do as they desire, you get federal funding taken away, or worse. I say it's time to get angry, and not middle-of-the-road angry. I mean righteous anger. Anger that is backed up with a belief that you are doing something right, and to hell with everything else. If you and pro-gun activists everywhere do not keep pushing back, the leftists will continue to come after your gun rights until they are gone. They will obliterate your ability to protect yourself until you are a bug on a windshield, which they would prefer you were anyways. DHS has already expanded their See Something, Say Something program to help push Obama's gun-grabbing operations. This, combined with help from the TSA, FBI, ATF, local and state law enforcement, plus your doctors and the faculty at the schools your children go to, you are being surrounded by a snitch culture that is being encouraged and supported by government funding that your taxes pay for. Sounds like a sick joke, doesn't it? Where have we seen this activity before? This type of activity has been seen before, and it's unfortunate that I have to continue using such examples, but it has to be said. It was the tactic of the German Stasi and the Nazi Party of the 1930s. Their main tactic was to dehumanize and oppress their victims and prey on the fears of the public to achieve political gain. They made promises of how the standard of living would increase to those with less than others. Sound like a certain president in power right now? By now, if you're still listening to my voice, you're as concerned as I am. And if this is the first time you're putting these puzzle pieces together, then I'm happy I was able to provide you a fresh insight into how your government has been subverted, manipulated, undermined, and is currently in decline. Proof of this is in the haste in passing laws without reading them. Most recently in New York, where the strictest gun control legislation in the nation was just passed. They pushed it through so fast they forgot to exclude law enforcement from being exempt from their gun-grabbing agenda. As Senator Greg Ball so aptly stated, this was less about safety and more about a governor who wants to be president. I salute him for taking the stance he did. These leftists posture themselves in debates, putting themselves on pedestals and painting you into a corner if you disagree with them in any way. They pull on heartstrings to achieve political gains. They use mass media to brainwash your family, friends, and neighbors, and to going along with the expansion of a snitch culture they need to accomplish their goals. They push their collectivist, Marxist, fascist, and communistic ways upon those same people in the hopes of taking your rights away and forcing you to become dependent on the almighty government that they want to control everything. In closing, as usual, I leave you with a thought-provoking quote. Think hard on this one. It could be the one you need to wake someone up. Government is not reason, but eloquence. And like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. George Washington. This concludes my article. Once again, I want to thank the SGT Report for posting my article. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my thoughts in these matters. Most people that do this kind of stuff are going to ask you to share this stuff with a friend. I'm going to ask you to share it not only with your friends, but with every liberal you know. Maybe you will be the one that wakes them up.